This building was supposed to be dead. For 7 long years, it stood frozen in the desert just north of Jeddah, a concrete skeleton stopping abruptly at the 63rd floor. No cranes moving, no workers, just a half-finished giant baking under the Saudi sun, surrounded by rumors that it would never be completed. And yet, in 2026, this is what it looks like now. Over 100 floors, more than 400 meters in the air, climbing at a rate of roughly 4 meters every single week. This is Jeddah Tower, the building designed to become the first man-made structure in history to break the 1-kilometer barrier. And after being declared dead more times than anyone can count, it's not just back, it's racing toward the finish line. Let's start with the number that makes this project feel almost unreal. 1,000 meters, over 3,280 feet. When it's finished, Jeddah Tower will stand at least 173 meters taller than the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, currently the tallest building on Earth. To put that in perspective, it'll be nearly twice the height of America's tallest skyscraper, One World Trade Center. It's not just tall, it's a vertical city. Inside, you'll find a luxury Four Seasons hotel, office space, serviced apartments, high-end condominiums, and what will become the world's highest observatory, a sky terrace around the 157th floor, roughly 30 meters across, sitting more than 600 meters above the ground. The total built area, about 530,000 square meters, served by 59 elevators, some of them double-deckers, moving people upward at over 10 meters per second. But here's the thing about a building this ambitious. The reason it's impressive in 2026 isn't just the height. It's that it exists at all. Act number 1, the fall. To understand the comeback, you have to understand the collapse. The design was first revealed back in 2011 by the architecture firm Adrian Smith plus Gordon Gill. And that name matters because Adrian Smith is the very same architect who designed the Burj Khalifa. So when the man who built the world's tallest building says he wants to build something even taller, people listen. Ground broke in 2013. The tower was meant to be the crown jewel of Jeddah Economic City, a 5.3 million square meter development along the Red Sea, part of a $20 billion vision. And then everything went wrong. First came the technical problems. The site sits on weak soil near the coast, which forced engineers to rethink the entire foundation. Then came the financial issues. But the real killer came in 2017. That year, Saudi Arabia launched a sweeping anti-corruption purge. The tower's main contractor, the Bin Laden Group, saw its owner arrested, and the project's own developer, Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, was detained as well. Just like that, the two key figures behind the world's tallest building were swept up in the same crackdown. Construction ground to a halt, then COVID-19 hit, and for 7 years, Jeddah Tower became a ghost, a monument to over-ambition frozen at 63 floors. Critics wrote it off completely. It became the poster child for Saudi megaprojects that promise the world and deliver an empty shell. Act number 2, the resurrection. So what changed? In late 2024, Jeddah Economic Company signed a new agreement to restart construction, a deal worth roughly 7.2 billion Saudi riyals, bringing in the Saudi Bin Laden Group once again to finish what they started. And in January 2025, after 7 years of silence, the cranes began moving again. This is where the story flips, because once it restarted, this building didn't crawl, it sprinted. When work resumed, the tower stood at 63 stories. By January 2026, it was approaching 80 floors. By April 2026, it crossed the symbolic 100th floor and 400 meters, joining an exclusive club of only around 25 buildings worldwide to ever reach 100 stories. By the middle of 2026, it was nearing the 104th floor. The engineers managing the project say it's now moving faster than it ever did before the pause, averaging roughly 1 floor per week on the central core. The target completion date? August 2028. And while we're talking about how they pulled this off, but here's what really makes this project staggering: the engineering challenges that come with pushing a structure this high. Act number 3. The engineering. Building a kilometer into the sky isn't just the Burj Khalifa, but bigger. At this height, the laws of physics start fighting back. The first enemy is wind. Up at extreme elevations, the tower has to withstand winds that could tear apart a lesser structure. The solution is in the shape. If you look at Jeddah Tower from above, it forms a three-pronged Y, what the architects call a three-petal footprint. The design is inspired, in their words, by the folded fronds of a young desert plant shooting up from the ground. That tapering, aerodynamic form does something clever. Instead of fighting the wind head-on, the building's wings break up the airflow, reducing the swirling forces, called vortex shedding, that would otherwise shake the tower violently. Gordon Gill, one of the architects, even described its shape as looking like a child's drawing of a paper airplane. Then there's the structure itself. The engineering firm Thornton Tomasetti, who handled the structural design, summed up their philosophy in one phrase: concrete is king in the Middle East. Instead of importing exotic techniques, they built a system around the concrete strengths and construction methods already common in Saudi Arabia, and it's elegant in its simplicity. No columns, no outriggers, no floor beams. Every single wall is interconnected, and every structural element resists both the wind pushing sideways and the immense weight pushing down. Holding all of this up is a foundation that's just as extreme as the tower above it. Beneath the building sits a 5-meter-thick concrete raft, supported by 270 board piles, each 1.8 meters in diameter, driven as deep as 105 meters into the ground to find stable rock beneath that weak coastal soil. But maybe the most groundbreaking challenge of all is something you'd never think about: getting wet concrete to the top. Pumping concrete 1 full kilometer straight up has never been done before. The engineers say Jeddah Tower will feature the highest concrete pump of any building on the planet. And thanks to new technology, they can now push it the entire height of the tower with a single pumping system, rather than relying on multiple staged pumps like they originally feared. The next big milestone, reaching the 500-meter mark, which they expect in roughly 25 weeks, followed by the Sky Terrace around the 160th floor, the structural transition zone, where the tower narrows toward its spire. Act number 4, the bigger picture. Now here's what makes Jeddah Tower's survival so remarkable. Look around at Saudi Arabia's other megaprojects. Neom's The Line, that 170-kilometer linear city, has reportedly seen its funding suspended until at least 2030, with parts of it cut down to just a couple of kilometers. The Trojena ski resort that was meant to host the 2029 Winter Games saw contracts canceled. Even the Muqab, that 400-meter cube, has faced suspensions and setbacks. Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 promised a parade of futuristic giants, and many of them have stumbled. But Jeddah Tower? Of all those projects, this is the one that's actually delivering. As one architect put it, of all the projects in Saudi Arabia, this was the one capable of meeting its deadline. While the flashier, more viral megaprojects stalled, the old, supposedly dead skyscraper quietly got back to work and started climbing. There's a lesson in that. The most futuristic-looking idea isn't always the one that survives. Sometimes it's the project grounded in proven engineering, local materials, and a clear purpose that actually crosses the finish line. Act number 5. The question. Of course, no mega project this size comes without hard questions. Buildings and construction already account for roughly 37% of global CO2 emissions, and a structure this tall demands enormous amounts of concrete, steel, glass, water, and, in a hot coastal climate, relentless air conditioning. The designers say they've planned for this. A high-performance exterior wall is meant to reduce thermal loads, and a series of notches carved into the tower's three sides create pockets of shade that shield it from the brutal sun, while opening up terraces with views over the Red Sea. But the real test won't be the day it opens. It'll be the years after, whether a kilometer-tall tower can justify its existence, not just by how high it reaches, but by how intelligently it uses energy, water, and land once people actually move in. Even the architect behind it, Gordon Gill, says the next great benchmark in architecture isn't height anymore, it's sustainability and longevity, achieving greater heights with greater efficiency. So that's the story of the skyscraper that rose from the dead, a building written off as a failed dream, frozen for 7 years, tangled in arrests, financial collapse, and a global pandemic. And yet here it is in 2026, climbing 4 meters a week toward a record no human structure has ever touched, a full kilometer into the sky. If it stays on track, by August 2028, Jeddah will be home to the tallest building in the history of the world. Not because it was the flashiest idea on paper, but because, unlike so many others, it simply refused to stay dead. And if you enjoyed this one, subscribe so you don't miss the next mega project breakdown. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.